Chris Schultz here with TalkAboutTopeka.com and GabLocal.tv, and we are out here on the corner of 10th and Gage. As you can see, there are people having a vigil here for the tragic shooting that happened in Orlando. I'm here with Stephanie Mott, one of the organizers of this vigil here. Stephanie, thank you for doing this. This is something that really showed the community that love does speak louder, right?
It does. It absolutely, in no mistaken terms, it says we are a community, that we're all in this together, and that love is the answer.
Absolutely. Well, there's so many people that have come out today. How does the crowd make you feel?
I was hoping that we would get, more than 50, and so this is. It makes me feel like that we're getting ready to make a difference in the city of Topeka. It makes me feel that we know where we want to go, and we're tired of letting other people tell us where we have to be.
Well, and the attacks that happened at this particular place, this was a gay nightclub. That says a lot, right? What do we hope to come from this? I mean, what positive can we draw from it?
Well, I mean, for me, one of the positives, because of who I am in political activism in Topeka, is knowing that what's happening here is based on the last desperate flashes of hate and discrimination that are soon to be extinguished by the light of love and justice. And so even though how tragic this event is, I understand that in my lifetime we will see the end of that kind of homophobia, that kind of transphobia, that we won't see people going out and discriminating against people, at least not legally, because of who they are, who they love.
Now we had some of our notorious protesters that were across the street. They were outnumbered, and there was a little bit that when we had the speaking that you were doing. Tell us a little bit about what you were saying there at the end about how they're gone and we're still here, right?
Well, I mean, to me, the people standing on this corner of 10th and Gage represented love, coming together and recognizing that people have been harmed, and we need to recognize that, and we need to heal, and we need to hurt, and we need to come together in love. And the people on the other corner, love is probably not the word that I would choose to describe what they represent. And so clearly we outlasted them, we outnumbered them, and we stood up and spoke loudly about love. And when we stood up and spoke loudly about love, hate went home.
Well, and we saw Topeka Police Chief James Brown was here tonight. Was there a concern for safety? How did that all come about?
Chief Brown, after he became the chief of police, I went to him and I said, "Can I talk to you about the LGBT community?" And we met, and it was a very good meeting, a very positive meeting. He expressed his interest in learning more. He expressed his interest in supporting the LGBT community and making sure that we were protected and treated with dignity and respect. I mentioned to him that there wasn't anybody from the LGBT community on his advisory board, and about 3 weeks later I got an email from his office saying, "Would you be on my advisory board?"
You got the job.
Yeah, I kind of knew that could happen. The important thing is that when the Chief's Advisory Board sets down, there are black men and black women and Hispanic men, Hispanic women, and the Muslim community and the LGBT community are all represented on this advisory board. So after what happened on Sunday, during the weekend, on Sunday, I got an email from the Chief's office asking if I would come in and help him understand how to make sure that we're going to be safe.
And it's important to note that there are people from so many different, all of those groups that you mentioned. Those are victims. As we were reading the list of people, what was going through your head as you were hearing the names of the people being read off?
Well, I think it brings home the fact that we know that already, but it brings it home in a different way, that these are real human beings, that these are people who had lives and futures, hopes and dreams that were snuffed out way too soon, all because somebody had a problem with who they are or who they love.
So many young people. I mean, when you hear that, you don't want to hear that, but you're hearing people who haven't even reached
Right.
adulthood for the most part, right?
Right. I mean, there's so much life left to live, and so much potential, and it could be the person who is going to find a cure for cancer was in that group. It could be the person who is going to find a cure for muscular dystrophy or MS or something. It could be the person who's going to figure out how to feed the world. Their life was snuffed out, and
The overwhelming suicide rates that we have for the LGBT youth, and I want to bring that up because it's something that needs to be discussed, and we need to realize that what draws things like this to happen, that also these are the silent killers. We don't talk about how many those numbers. I mean, you care to comment on that?
well, I talk about it a lot, and it doesn't always make it into the newspaper. But the real fact of the matter is, anytime that we invalidate somebody's love or invalidate somebody's identity, we increase the likelihood they'll meet with violence and discrimination, and with harassment, and we also increase the likelihood that they'll attempt suicide. We know this. It's not conjecture. It's fact. We can put the statistics together that show that when we say no, you can't really be who you are, that young people commit suicide. And there are studies that up to 50% of transgender teenagers attempt suicide. And why in the world is that not the issue that we're looking at instead of some of the issues that are being brought forward? That every time the Kansas legislature comes forward with something that says you're less than if you're LGBT, another Kansas child kills himself. And we need to talk about that.
Yeah, absolutely. It's really important that we create a loving environment for everyone. We're talking about children here.
Yeah, I know. It's just, these are our kids. Our government is supposed to be protecting them, making them safe, but instead they're selecting a small group of people and intentionally doing things that make it harder to be who you are and lead to violence and suicide.
Do they really believe this? I mean, do they really believe in what that transgendered people shouldn't be able to use the restroom of their choice, or is this political?
I mean, it's obviously impossible to assess motivation to another human being. Hard enough to assess motivation to myself.
True.
But if they believe it, is they've chosen to remain ignorant. They've chosen not to have the knowledge that they need in order to make decisions based on fact instead of on ideology and dogma. And I'm not sure that you can make a separation there. Whether they believe it or they don't believe it, they continue to do it in the face of the statistics and the facts that show the harm that they're causing when they do.
Absolutely. Well, I think you said it beautifully. Thank you so much. That's Stephanie Mott, just an activist we're lucky to have here to stand up for those who
Thank you.
don't really have the power to stand up for themselves.
Thank you.